Hi. I'd like to talk about knowledge management projects. Now, one of the things when you're designing a project is that it should be really quite simple. It should be tangible and it should be achievable. Now, I know that sounds kind of fairly obvious, but I've come across a number of projects which really were the equivalent of trying to solve world famine. World hunger. It just was almost impossible to deliver them. So if you're designing a project to illustrate the value of knowledge management, tackle something quite simple, something that is achievable. I'll give you an example. One organisation wanted to introduce knowledge management, but weren't quite sure where to get started or how to get started. So we suggested looking at an activity that was quite common in the organisation and creating some sort of project or pilot round about that topic. And they chose bids. Now, most organisations will have some sort of bidding process. So what we did was we actually got them to identify how they went about bidding right now. And we got some flip charts, kind of a meeting without flip charts nowadays, and we put them on the wall and said, let's illustrate how you do the bid. And we then walked them through it, and halfway through someone says, just a voice in the background, and if you're running meetings, always be aware of the voice in the background, said, I didn't know that. I didn't understand the impact that had. Now, what it did was it then allowed us to go back and start to say, well, when you're doing this, do you understand what's happening further down the chain from you? Turned out it didn't. So we redesigned that, and then we actually created a project round about implementing this new way of actually doing bids. So we created a smoother process, we built learning into the bid process, and it became more effective. It was an ideal opportunity to illustrate the value of knowledge management to the company on something that was actually very, very critical. If you think about it, if you can't win the bids, then your company's not going to survive very long. So when you're picking a project to work on, think of one that's very simple, very bounded, and is far more likely to deliver.